Okay, so part of the installation here is I've mounted the battery monitor shunt. I put it inside a weatherproof junction box that I just picked up at local home hardware store there, and then I just drilled some holes in it to get the wires going to enter and exit the box, and I mounted the box to the front of the trailer. I actually was able to use the bracket that was for the single propane tank regulator that I had that I took off when I converted the trailer over to dual propane tanks. So I thought, well, I'll just take a minute here to show you how to actually get the wiring, so dealing with this large number 1 gauge wire, to get it stripped and then crimp the ends on. So I'm gonna do that right here and just show you how that's done. Okay, we're actually just gonna work on this table out here, this outdoor table, over top of my plans for the solar system here. Here is the one end that I've already crimped. I had to crimp it so I could put it on the lug, or put the lug on the bolt where it's going to be mounted on the shunt, and then basically measure out my length of wire that I need to get to the negative terminal of my battery bank. So, and then I just cut it. You'll want a good set of cutters to cut this cable. It is pretty hard to cut. I don't have one, so actually what ended up working for me was a set of pruning shears, the ones that ratchet. I actually cut right through that pretty well, so that's nice. The other tools that you want would be a good stripper. On here, the strands of the copper wire in here is very fine. That's how it manages its flexibility, as well as the coating's an actual rubber, not plastic or anything like that. So it keeps it very flexible, which is nice. But what you want is a good stripper so that you don't go too far through the insulation while you're cutting it, and actually cut those strands. Because they're so fine, they're very easy to cut. Again, it's also another tool I don't have. I don't have strippers that'll handle this gauge of wire, so I'm using an X-Acto knife. And you know, just take the knife. What I do is I basically score it where I need it all the way around, and then I cut it this way, and I can usually actually tear the insulation along that score line, and get that stripped off that way. And then what you want is just take your lug. This is a 1/0. The packaging says it's good for number 1 and also 1/0. And it's got a 5/16 hole drilled in it. It's the slightly smaller hole. Works with the terminals on my batteries, so we went with that. And then basically what you want to do is just measure this out to where you want the insulation. This has a really nice bevel on here. By the way, when you're looking for these lugs, there's a lot of cheap ones out there. They are copper coated, stuff like that. Also, they got very thin walls, and you don't really want that. You want a really good, heavy, thick wall ones. These ones I picked up actually out of Princess Auto. For the people in the States, that's basically the Canadian version of Harbor Freight, I hear. That, you know, they basically just carry a whole bunch of random stuff. So these ones, they got a really nice thick wall on them. They also have a bevel, which helps you get the wires inside. And you want to basically measure how much wire you need to get it all the way up to the front, and have your insulation just kind of going inside this bevel if you can. So that's what I'm doing here. Is you can kind of see a crease right here on the back side. So I'm basically measuring up to that. You can get some wire farther in, but it tapers down, so you're never going to shove the entire thickness of the cable down that little bit of taper. So this looks like it's a pretty good spot. So I'm just gonna kind of mark it there, and I basically just rub the end of the lug onto the rubber there, the rubber isolator, and gives me a mark as to where I need to cut. So then I'm just gonna cut this all the way around. This is gonna look a bit awkward because I'm trying to do it for the camera instead of doing it against my body, how I would normally do it. Of course, don't recommend that, you know, the whole, oh, don't cut towards yourself, but I often have no choice to do so because of the way I have to hold stuff. So I'm gonna get this stripped. Basically, what I say is I'm just gonna score this all the way around. Score it fairly deep, but not so deep that I think I might be hitting the actual copper. This wire also has, between the rubber and the copper, it has a paper coating as well, sheathing. And yeah, I'm just gonna cut this all the way around best I can. You guys can probably do better. And then I'm gonna cut it lengthwise. Like that, and I can feel that I went through, but I find it, because I'm going lengthwise, I don't tend to cut any strands. If I do, whatever, it's a couple, I guess. But you can see how this is, like, I'm not even cut down all the way through this rubber and it's starting to peel. So if it doesn't peel nice, then score it a little deeper. And like there, I didn't, actually doesn't even look like I scored it there, I don't think. No, not at all. So scored a little here. Like that. I'm gonna have to go a bit deeper. Start from the other side. That's the other one's kind of tearing a little bit. So if you have a proper stripper, this process is like a 5-second process once you got your stripper set to the right depth for the insulation. But doing it this way saves me from having to run all the way into town to go buy another tool. And so it saved me a bit of time that way, I guess, because that's like an hour of driving period, let alone getting into the store and all that stuff. So a little bit of extra time it takes me is I don't know, it's just a bit easier to do this way, I guess. I don't know, it makes sense in my head, so leave me alone. There we go, got that hard piece done, and then yeah, it just kind of strips off, and that is it. And then just kind of, you're not really looking to twist the strands, but just kind of get them all bunched together, and while you pull on them, if you happen to cut one, it will pull that out of the way for you. And I'm just going to clean this a little bit up right here. Kind of pull this bit of rubber off that stayed behind. Let's give it a little cut. You don't want any insulation in your bond. Let's just do it. Okay. All right, and then it's as simple as get all the strands inside your lug. Like that. You can see the insulation's going right up to the copper. So that's about where we want it. Now we're going to head over to the hammer crimper that I got, and we're going to get that crimped. This is a hammer crimp that I picked up. Basically, you put the lug in there. This is spring loaded, the silver piece. and it goes down, holds the lug in place. You get your wire in place, and then you just take a hammer and beat on this until it's crimped. And you can see, so this is the part that this silver piece hammers down onto, and then the other side where it's kind of beveled on both sides is the lower part, and it just makes an incredibly good mechanical bond. And then if you got some shrink tube big enough, put it over top, shrink it on. If you don't, give it wrap a tape, but don't get it down over here because that's obviously your electrical connection point. So that is that. So take this, pull this back, and put the lug inside. So I'm trying to do this one-handed here, obviously. And position your lug the way you want it. If you have, like if it's a short run, you want to make sure you don't have, gonna have to have a twist on your wires. Then make sure your lug is the right in the right orientation, and then that's basically it. I pulled it up to this section here for that bevel. That's where it's going to want to sit. That's how it looks. And then I'm going to shove the wire in there and beat it. And basically you want a good solid surface to hammer on, because it's going to take a few hits, a few hard hits. And if you got like a bouncy surface, it's going to make it worse or harder to get it crimped down. You can buy ones that work like a press style to do this. They can get them in hydraulic or just mechanical screw style, whatever. But these hammer ones are really cheap. They're really affordable to buy, I guess, and they get the job done. And oops, I have a rogue strand. Let's get that back in position. That really doesn't want to stay where I need it. Come on, strand. Let's put it towards the top so I can see. Okay. Okay, now it looks like I got all the strands in there again. That's about it. It's going to take a few hits. Until you start actually making contact with the wire and crimping it on. The crimper will bounce around a wee bit as you do this. Just reposition. I don't like that. Come on, get in there better. And I can hear a little bit of a thud there, so it's starting to crimp hard, get tight. I'm just going to give her a few more now, and that's it. It is crimped on. I can pull on it. It's not going anywhere. And that is an end. So now this is a done cable to go from the negative side of my battery bank up to my battery monitor. Let's go get it installed.